Can I just say, before we even dive into a lot of the content in the episode, the fact that when we see Catholi laying in bed, almost like pale looking, I thought she was dead. Like, seriously, I was sitting there like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is how she's gonna go out? Which, if she died there, I think it would have worked. But it does feel like she more or less did die and was brought back somehow. Because at the very end of the episode, it kind of gets confirmed like this is some sort of miracle, like she must have pulled something. Because it looked like she was going to die there, and everyone kind of looked like she was dying, like they were acting like it was too late. Because we get the full confirmation of how these fairies are made and ultimately what happens with their memories. Because I think it was in episode 2 maybe when they were talking about how their memories can kind of degrade and they sort of lose their mind at a certain age. And we were starting to see that last week with after the battle she was seeing these visions. And I forgot to mention it last week, but it gets really like relevant this episode where she's seeing like candles in her room in this like weird red animation to kind of symbolize like her mind is shattering. She's remembering her past life. As we learn that these fairies are literally, they're not actually like human, they're not actually real, they're not a real person. What it is these wandering spirits get revived into this body, they have a short lifespan, and ultimately if they live long enough, their old memories will come into terms with their new ones, and they'll essentially lose their mind and pretty much die. Which is pretty damn insane, but it makes sense if you need a weapon to fight back. It's actually a good weapon, but in the case of Willem, someone who's looking after these girls, it doesn't matter if these are reborn from spirits, these are real people in his eyes, and I'm completely on board with him. I think it's easy to say, well, they literally are weapons, they're born for this, they don't fear death, but eventually, if you reach a certain age, you start to value your own life, as we can see with Catholi. If we look at some of the younger kids, they don't value their life, like when that kid tumbled off the ledge. But once you reach a certain age, once your memories start kind of interacting, that's when things start to change. And that's usually when your life should have ended in a battle or something like that. But it was really crazy to see her have that vision of her past life in her other form, and ultimately she has some sort of deal, she made some sort of deal to come out of that and be able to welcome Willem again, and it was really heartwarming to see that kind of hug. I wasn't expecting, I thought they were going to pull the route of she died before he returned, and I think if they would have done that, it would have worked just because it would have been an emotional swing, but we know that emotional swing is still going to be coming here because her time is near. As we know, they have a short lifespan and her memories have already began to go crazy, unless whatever happened in that dream world somehow stopped it or prevented it for a time being. But I have to say, even though the end content was really good, my favorite stuff was actually the reunion with Willem and his old friend. The one who used to be this kid who would wear a robe back in his day, as I really like seeing his flashback and the people he used to be with in this war. But ultimately, he gets brought into this place, and this old sage guy's like, there's no way that this guy exists. Like, he existed like 500 years ago. There's no way. And his reaction when he first sees Willem and just his mouth opening, it was like some Dragon Ball animation, just like, what the hell is going on here? Just that excitement. But it was really nice seeing this old man being like, my old friend is still alive, because the only reason he's alive is he put a curse on himself so he can't be killed by old age or like physical harm, but ultimately he's not really alive. You couldn't even call him human. But to see Willem meet one of his old friends, it was nice to see that conversation. It was a different side of Willem, like, and just the overall banter that they had was really entertaining. But just to see that the monster that petrified Willem is still alive and kicking, and he's just a skull now, and he's trying to be all menacing, and Willem's just like, just cut your act, and he's like, alright. That was funny. I think some people may not like the first half, but for me, I absolutely adore just the banter between his old friend and his old nemesis, and the fact that this old sage man and this old, like, demon that Willem fought literally are the reason that this floating island exists, that they are the one who pretty much saved humanity, or not humanity, because only Willem is human, and you can't really call this sage guy human because he's cursed and he's not actually alive anymore, but essentially they gave them protection so they could fight these beasts. So it's really interesting to see that his old friend and his old enemy are the reason that this can still exist, but they still are keeping things from Willem, as they say, like, why didn't you tell him about the truth behind these beasts? So it's going to be interesting if he learns whatever this truth may be, but I think the whole dialogue and interactions building up to that before he reaches home to then see Catholi on her bed looking dead, I think it was a really nice kind of episode. I don't know if this would be my favorite episode, but I think it would be probably top 3 at this moment, if not top 2, mainly because we really don't know much about Willem's past. We know the general idea of the war, but we never really knew anyone that he kind of interacted with, minus the one girl he promised to have buttercake with. So to see someone who is, you know, over 500 years old, he's cursed, and he never thought he would see anyone that was in his past, to see that reunion, I thought was very sweet and heartwarming, but also really funny, especially with the nemesis still being alive and kicking, the skull man. I thought that was pretty entertaining. But overall, it was just really interesting to see that they kind of have this spark of hope that we have our weapon tuner, we can fight back, like, let's go down to earth and let's kick some ass. But ultimately, Willem says, I would rather help these girls who have a short lifespan and care for them because I made a promise. I don't really care. There's nothing left with humanity. Like, I'm the only guy left. And it's kind of interesting to see that he's completely different back on when he was on Earth and he was fighting for humanity. Now he just wants to be with Cthulhu and the others because he wants to raise them and kind of give them a life before ultimately their time runs out. And I think it was really just well handled. I think it's interesting to see how different he is compared to where he was back when he was in the war before he was petrified. It's going to be interesting to see ultimately where this show's going to end up, because there's been a lot of points where they could have ended things in tragedy and they pulled away to keep us there, and it's a matter of time. Like, you don't know exactly when someone could die, when something bad could happen, because this was the perfect spot to literally kill her and have Willem not be able to say goodbye or give her buttercake. Like, it sounds kind of silly to say she wouldn't get buttercake, but that was their promise. So it's going to be interesting to see ultimately when tragedy and despair hits, because I don't know when it will, just because they've done a good enough job of they've introduced so many points where they could have done that, and instead they gave us hope. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with our emotions eventually, or if they just won't play with them at all. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. For the light novel readers, how did you enjoy the adaptation for this episode? Was it a bit rushed? Was there some things cut out? Or did you just think it was an overall solid episode for anime originals? What did you think, and what was your favorite moment? Because I honestly think that conversation between Willem and his old friend had to be mine. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And before you leave, smack that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.